Ready to finally ditch that phrasebook fear and totally conquer clothes shopping in English?
Yeah.
Buckle up, because this deep dive is taking you straight to the fitting room, armed with all those insider phrases and cultural know-how.
You're talking about way more than just like asking for a different size.
Right.
Think of us as your personal stylist guiding you through that whole shopping experience.
I love it. So picture this. You've just landed in a new city. The shops are calling your name. You're ready to revamp your wardrobe. First mission, navigating all those sizes.
And this is where it gets interesting. Because even though you see those familiar like SMLs sizes, they can be surprisingly different depending on where you are in the world.
Totally. Okay, so let's say I find a jacket I'm crazy about, but it's a little snug when I try it on. What's the move?
You've got options.
Okay.
In a lot of English-speaking countries, it's perfectly normal to be pretty straightforward and just say, like, do you have this in a larger size?
Okay.
But in some places, it's actually more common to phrase it a bit differently.
Oh, like it's all about being subtle. Tell me more.
Exactly. You could say something like, this feels a bit snug. Do you think a larger size would be better? It's all about finding that balance between being clear about what you need, but also being mindful of those local customs.
That's a brilliant tip. I'd much rather learn that now than have an awkward encounter in the middle of a shopping spree.
Absolutely. And it's not just about size.
Right.
Let's say you love that jacket, but the color isn't quite right. This is your chance to master all those color terms in English.
Time to unleash my inner fashionista.
Yes.
Okay, so do you have this in a different color? Is a good start, right?
Perfect. You can get even more specific and say something like, do you have this in emerald green? Or whatever color catches your eye.
That's way more satisfying than just pointing and hoping for the best, though I have totally been there before.
We've all been there. But now you'll be prepared to handle any color emergency. Speaking of emergencies, let's talk about those moments when you spot a sale sign cue. The Bargain Hunter theme music.
Okay, I am all ears.
Right?
I've always been a little unsure about how to ask about discounts. Like, I don't want to seem cheap, but who doesn't love a good deal?
You are not alone. It's totally normal to be a little hesitant. But in many English-speaking countries, it's perfectly acceptable to ask if something is on sale.
So no need to be shy about it.
Not at all. You can casually ask, is this on sale? Or are there any discounts on this item? It's a normal part of that whole shopping experience.
Whew, that's a relief. But what about haggling? Is that something people actually do in English-speaking countries?
It really depends on the context.
Okay.
In a typical department store or boutique, haggling isn't really the norm. But here's where things get interesting if you're at a flea market or like a local craft fair.
Okay.
Or even buying like a high-ticket item like antique furniture.
Right.
There might be a bit more wiggle room for negotiation.
So it's all about reading the room, right?
Yes.
Like sensing if it's a haggling-friendly environment.
Precisely. But when in doubt, a simple, is this your best price? Or would you be willing to negotiate? Can kind of open up that conversation. Now, let's imagine you've successfully navigated those racks, maybe even scored a deal or two. It's time to face the checkout counter.
This is where I always get a little flustered. Cards, cash, receipts. It feels like there's a whole other language to decode.
Don't worry, we've got you covered.
Okay.
In most English-speaking countries, that process is pretty straightforward. When the cashier asks, how would you like to pay? You have a couple of go-to phrases. You can confidently say, I'll pay with a card. Or I'd like to pay in cash.
Okay, that makes sense. But I have been in situations where they ask for more specifics about the card. What do I do then?
You're one step ahead. Yes, sometimes they'll ask credit or debit to differentiate between the types of cards. And depending on where you are, they might even ask Visa or MasterCard to confirm which network your card uses.
Good to know. I'll be ready for them. Now, once the transaction is done, is it standard practice to ask for a receipt?
It's always a smart move to ask for a receipt, even if they don't automatically offer it.
Okay.
It's simple. Just say, could I get a receipt, please?
That's a great reminder. Sometimes I forget in the excitement of a successful shopping trip.
Yeah.
Speaking of successful, what if I need a little help finding something in the store? I'm picturing those massive department stores where you could get lost for hours.
Don't hesitate to ask for help. Store employees are there to assist you. Start with a polite, excuse me, to get their attention.
And then what? Are there any specific phrases to ask for directions or help finding an item?
Absolutely. You could say something like, I'm looking for the fitting rooms. Could you point me in the right direction? Or if you're on the hunt for a specific item, you could ask, "Excuse me, I'm looking for a lightweight scarf. Do you carry those?"
Okay, those are super helpful phrases.
That one?
It's amazing how a little language practice can make you feel so much more confident in those situations. You know, this actually reminds me of a time when I was in a vintage shop in London. Oh my gosh. Hopelessly lost in a sea of amazing clothes.
Oh, no.
I needed another size, but I was too nervous to try those phrases out.
It happens to the best of us. But think of how much smoother that shopping trip would have been
Right.
if you'd had those phrases in your back pocket.
Totally. Now I'm ready to walk into any store with my head held high.
That's the spirit. And remember, even if you fumble a word or two, a smile and a little patience go a long way.
It's all about the effort, right?
Exactly. Now, before we wrap up our shopping spree, any other power phrases our listeners should have up their sleeves?
Ooh, yes. What about when you find something that's almost perfect but needs a test run?
The fitting room. You can always ask, do you have this in a different size? But to be extra sure, add in, is there a fitting room where I can try this on?
Fitting rooms are lifesavers, especially when you're trying to decipher international sizing. Okay, last scenario. You're on the hunt for something specific, but you can't seem to find it anywhere.
This is where you channel your inner detective and politely ask, "Excuse me, I'm looking for a item. Could you point me in the right direction?"
So much better than wandering aimlessly for hours.
Absolutely. Remember, most people are happy to help, and using the right phrases just makes the interaction smoother for everyone.
This deep dive has been like a masterclass in confident clothes shopping. From sizes and colors to discounts and navigating those sometimes tricky cultural nuances, we've covered it all.
And the best part is, this is just the beginning. The more you use these phrases, the more natural they'll become.
Exactly. So to our listeners, think of this deep dive as your shopping spree starter kit. You've got the tools. Now go out there and practice.
What phrase are you most excited to try out? Let us know. And in the meantime, happy shopping.